just love, love, love. And today I'm going to show you how to duplicate this. If you have something similar to this in your closet, I'm going to show you how I do that with this top. Here's my shirt pattern that I'm going to use. And this is the fabric that I've chosen to make the new shirt from. I'm going to take my fabric and fold it in half. And I want it right sides together. So I'm going to lay my pattern out onto the fabric. Now I'm not going to pretty much worry about this part here, so I'm just going to tuck it underneath. But you notice that here the fabric is scrunched, so what I need to do is figure out how much space I need to add to give me the fullness or the width that I need. I have my measuring tape right here on the table. I'm going to take my top and I'm going to put it down at the 1 here, and then I'm going to stretch it to see just how far that I need to cut the fabric. And when I stretch it, it stretches 23 inches. Now I'm going to take my measuring tape and I'm going to measure how long it is without it being stretched. And it looks like it's measuring about 14.5 inches. And remember, when I put it on my tape, it was stretched out to 23 inches. So I've done a little math here. My stretched out garment measures 23 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it like this, but I'm going to add 4.5, and on this side I'm not going to have quite 4.5 inches, so I'm going to go as far as I can, which it won't really matter because it'll be full anyway. So I'm just going to extend it as far as the fabric here, which is about 4, and I'm also going to extend the same amount on this side. So I just took a chalk line and I just drew 4 inches out here. I'm just going to trace out my garment, and I'm leaving just a hair of a seam allowance because my edges are rolled. So I'm only leaving maybe about a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the out all the way around. And then up under the arm, I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch as well. When it comes to the underarm section here, what I've done, I have my paper weight or my fabric weight. It's more like a fabric weight. I'm going to set it in the middle. And I have my 4 inches. And I'm going to test to make sure it's correct. So I'm going to hold this down and I'm going to stretch my garment. And looks like it does stretch to right where I need it. I'm going to take my chalk and I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to draw my line. When I make my curve, I'm going to make the curve so it comes in ends with the edge of where the armhole stops. And I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. Now I have everything chalked, but I'm going to leave it in place, and I'm going to cut now my fabric out. So this is what the top portion of the top looks like after it's been cut out. So now what we're going to do is, I'm going to turn it around so you can see. This is the neckline, but we want to distinguish the front from the back. So I'm going to drop one layer about 1.5 inches lower than the other layer. So that will let me know that that's the front. So since they're right sides together and it really doesn't matter, I'm going to take my seam gauge and I'm going to measure 1.5 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the center portion down to that mark. So there you see that's my 1.5 inches. Now because I want the shoulders to be the same, I'm going to start here at the shoulders and I'm just going to dip this down and cut it right to that spot. As you see, that makes it a lot lower. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just continue it on around. And just coming back and making sure I keep the shoulder seam the same. So now we have a distinction between the front and the back. You can see the distinction there. Now as far as the bottom half of the top, I'm going to cut 2 pieces of fabric to cover this width. Now here's my top, and where they have multiple rows, I'm only going to have 4 rows. I'll have 4 rows and then I'll have this nice little edge here. But anyway, we're going to measure. And as you see, this measures about 6 inches. We're going to cut 2 pieces that are the width of the top, which is 23 inches. And we're going to make it 6 inches wide. So here's the scrap fabric that's left over. One thing about chiffon, it has a tendency to shift. So you want to make sure that your ends are straight. So I'm just going to straighten this out. So what I'm going to do is, I like shortcuts, as you guys know, so I'm going to fold this over so that I'm cutting 4 layers at a time. I have all my four layers folded over, and I know I want a 6 inch wide piece, and since I'm going to be roll edging and adding the seam allowance, I'm going to probably cut this 7. That's going to give me an inch, which will be a ½ an inch on each side. So I'm going to cut this 7 inches. So what you could do, you could freehand it and just do it, or you can put chalk marks for 7 inches across. So I'm going to go ahead and I like to turn it this way so I can see how I'm cutting. And I'm going to freehand mine. I have my measuring tape here, and it's measuring 7 inches. So I'm just going to cut across and then keep moving my tape until I get to the other side. So now that's my 7 inches wide, and since I needed 23 inches and I just cut one long piece, so now I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are 23 inches long, and that's about right here. And I am going to freehand this, hold this so it stays in place. So now we're done and we're ready to start sewing.